Today we have James Warren from Augustus Minerals for the Trifecta series. Make sure you like, subscribe and comment.
That was the story, and we could sell that story from a commercial point of view, obviously, and then we could raise the money to then go and do the work we needed to do, which is just drill, baby.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's
the one. Drill, baby, drill.
And there's plenty of gold there, right? Like we're finding good gold numbers in rock chip and soil samples. We're finding big gold nuggets out there. And these are all hosted in granites where there's never been any drill holes there. Particularly their Music Well project piqued my interest to start with.
And you've also got something in the Gascoyne?
Yep, that was the tea tree project.
That's right, the tea tree project. Yep, beautiful. That's what I've got.
Yep.
Let's go into the PNG connection.
Whereas in Papua New Guinea, we have an application down on Mount Kare, which has already got 2.5 million ounces of gold defined.
Welcome back to another episode on the Gold Room podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have James Warren from Augustus Minerals. Mate, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Not a problem. Look, as you know, we start with the life and the times. So let's go back to the early years and how you got to where you are today.
Mate, taking it right back to 88, Mum and Dad moved over from New South Wales, actually, with my two older brothers. So they moved to Katanning.
Okay.
So I spent the first half of my school life in Katanning. I think I was 3 at the time when we moved over. And we lived there for 7 or 8 years and then moved up to Albany, where went to high school and finished off high school in Albany at the mighty North Albany Senior High School.
Beautiful.
The most public of public schools.
Is
mate.
it?
Yeah, it's pretty average, pretty rough now, I think.
Is
it was
it?
good
Okay.
at the time, but, she's a pretty wild old place, Albany and North Albany Senior High School. But
Beautiful.
yeah, magic down there, mate. Great place to grow up. Obviously, I'm big on the water, so fishing and diving and surfing and all those sorts of things and playing footy and cricket and things growing up. So, mate, good life. We lived out in a place called Little Grove, which is actually around the other side of the harbour from Albany, and you'd get on the treadlies and ride around through the bush and do whatever you want, basically. So it was good times.
Cool little childhood.
Good childhood, yeah. So never short on things to do, that's for sure.
Yep. Far cry from some kids growing up in the city today, mate. Sitting there
Well,
on their devices. That's a cool childhood.
Yeah, that's the thing, mate. I've got a little daughter up here, and when I was 9, we were riding around the neighbourhood, stealing people's fruit off their trees, and kicking the footy down the oval or going down to the yacht club for a fish or a swim or something like that. So it's certainly different growing up in the city, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
do you instill those values in, some of those
I certainly
pivotal moments in your daughter?
Yeah, I certainly try to. We get away a fair bit, and she always loves getting on the lap and having a drive through the sand dunes or whatever it might
cool.
be.
I did the same with my boys.
Yeah, it's great. She loves those sorts of experiences. She's at that age now where I can tow her on a sea biscuit and sort of fling her off into the water a bit. So
Awesome. She loves that?
yeah, she loves that sort of stuff.
Cool,
mate.
cool.
So try and keep it simple in those sorts of ways, and get her out in the ocean. She loves swimming and stuff like that. So I live in Scarborough, so it's a pretty good place to grow up as well, I must admit. So she's a bit spoiled, the little thing, but she enjoys it.
That's awesome. Mate, so let's go into your schooling.
Yep.
After high school, off to university, or did you do like a gap year or something?
Yeah, no, I had a gap year after high school. I actually went to the UK, a little place called Shrewsbury, which is sort of between Manchester and Birmingham in the southern part of England there, and played cricket for 12 months.
Awesome.
Or 1 season, I guess. So that was bloody good fun. Completely different to cricket in Australia, where you train 2 days a week, and then you might, if you're playing a 2-day, you could only end up batting once a fortnight or something. But over there, they played 20-20s 2 nights a week. You'd play a game on a Saturday. You'd have to play a game on a Sunday. So you're just playing cricket all the time.
Awesome.
And it was, lots of good light.
Were you doing a little bit of work over there
Mate,
as well?
I got on the taps a couple of times behind the bar and just did the general, the Aussie typical gap year thing over there.
Awesome.
Did a bit of labouring, enough to sort of, it was £1.80 for a pint of carling at the time. So 20 quid would go a long way over there, right? So do half a day's work, get 20 quid, and that paid for your night out sort of thing.
Nice.
So that was great, mate. So, spent the best part of 12 months over there before coming back to Perth and going to UWA.
Awesome. And that was the start on the way to becoming a doctor.
It was, mate. I had a bit of a stutter at the start, I suppose. I went to uni and did had no idea what I wanted to do, right? So I just did a general science first year, and then I sort of started going down the human biology, cell genetics sort of route,
Right.
and hated it. Like it was, so I don't know what I was thinking, but spent 6 hours in a lab with pipettes, and it was terrible. And then
Didn't like it at all?
Oh no, your little vial would go from like clear to blue at the end of the day after you're spending 6 hours in a lab doing all this stuff, and this enzyme worked. I was like, this is just not for me.
Mind numbing.
So I mean, some people love it obviously, but not me.
We need it.
We do.
So
apparently,
I'm glad
it's important.
It's very important. I'm glad there's people out there, not like you,
not me, but,
that are doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Someone has to, thank God. But yeah, I had a mate actually that was doing geology, and it's not really a science I'd heard much about at the time, strangely enough, being in WA. But he'd just been on field trips up to Carnarvon and then down to Bremer Bay and stuff like this. I was like, oh, that sounds more fun than this lab stuff I'm doing. So I looked into it. Just so happened I got a fair few credits for the first 2.5 years I spent at uni, and then so transferred into geology and never looked back really.
Awesome. So 3-year degree, 4-year degree?
It was a 3-year degree with honours basically. So
okay. Did you ever go and do a little stint in the goldfields?
Yeah, so I did my honours at St Ives basically. I'm looking at the gold systems around the Kambalda Dome. So I spent quite a bit of time actually on site at the St Ives Gold Camp and worked pretty closely with those guys, staying in Kambalda.
Oh, wow.
Which is pretty grim.
What roster? It is. What roster they have you on?
It was more like just sort of campaign type stuff, right?
Okay.
So I'd go out there for a month or so and then come back to uni and do the write-up and stuff.
So who were you working for? So who were you?
So this was during honours, sorry. And then after I finished my honours, because I was doing the honours with St Ives, I rolled into a job with them basically.
Right. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And then I moved to Kalgoorlie.
How long were you in Cal for?
About 4 years in the end.
Yeah, that's a good stint. That's a good
decent.
fair stint.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Played a lot of footy up there.
Yeah, awesome.
Which
Cricket?
was good fun. I played a bit of cricket, but it was so stinking hot in summer that it was just like I didn't have the heart for it really.
Yeah.
And I ended up, so I was working just the 5 days a week initially in the exploration team, and then moved underground, which was on a 8 and 6 roster based out of Cal. So it sort of got in the way a bit of cricket and things, but I was more keen on footy up there anyway. We had a good bunch of blokes still.
Who'd you play for?
Lifelong mates. Railways.
Yeah, okay, cool.
We won. I think we were in the flag 3 or 4 years in a row or something.
Oh,
we were
wow.
in the grand final, lost the first one and won the next few. So
awesome.
It was good times, yeah.
Yeah, bloody oath.
Yeah, so always good when you're winning.
Yeah, bloody oath, yes. A little bit different if you're on the other end of it, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I never won a premiership until I went to Kalgoorlie, so very fun.
They got some good footy players.
Yeah, it's a good competition up there for sure. So yeah, they get some ex-waffle players that come out, and it's a pretty high standard out there.
Yeah. So let's talk about this PhD.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into that?
Excuse me.
You're all right. Bloody oath, I'll have one.
I sort of fell into it, if I'm being perfectly honest. So, as I said, I was at St Ives for a couple of years in exploration and then underground. And then I decided I wanted to focus more on the junior exploration side. And I got a job with a company called Phoenix Gold.
Yep.
And it just so happened that the senior management and board were looking to do some research. So they had a big package of ground sort of north of Coolgardie on the Katanning corridor, we call it, sort of Frog's Legs and Castle Hill Camp, now owned by Evolution. But at that stage, it was owned by Phoenix. And the guys they were looking to get some research were out of UWA. They said, you should sponsor a PhD student to do this. Just so happened I knew the guys that they were talking to, and Phoenix Gold asked me if I'd like to do it, do the research project for Phoenix Gold on their ground while I'm working for them, basically. So it was
paid to study.
Paid to study, offer too good to refuse, basically. Yeah. I wasn't looking for it at the time. It just sort of fell in my lap, but at least I was smart enough to say yes when it came across, right?
So important.
Yeah, so it was as simple as that. Bit of luck. You need a bit of luck in this game, I suppose. So right place,
But you also
right
need to
time.
say yes.
I need to say yes.
A lot of people say no.
Yeah, and then you
Gotta
got to
say yes.
Then you got to do it right, and
Yep.
it was extremely difficult. Good fun. Learnt a heck of a lot. It sort of set me up for the rest of my career, I guess. In hindsight, having that
Looks great on the CV.
looks great on the CV, and just the level of knowledge you gain through it, and the ability to learn and research and sort of work by yourself. Like you're out there on your own for a large part. You do have your supervisors and all the rest of it, but you have to find your own path and find your own way to the answers you're sort of seeking. So it's it was very, very valuable, very taxing, but one of the most rewarding things I've done in hindsight.
Mate, I mean, we've ripped through a couple of these questions already. You know, like your what got you interested in geology?
Yep.
Kind of just fell into it with
It's
talking to a mate.
Yeah, it's the outdoors as well, right? So
Yeah.
once I started doing it, I was like, this is great. I love the science behind it as well. There's a lot of chemistry involved with whether it's how rocks are formed. The way mineral deposits are formed is really a study on like the entire Earth's processes. So you're learning about how volcanoes are formed and how mountain ranges are formed. Just so happens a lot of mineral deposits are formed in similar environments, right?
Yep.
And then to take it to the next step and how to effectively target ore bodies using all this knowledge that you have of the fundamental understanding sort of really did interest me, I guess, once I got into it.
Do you have any lessons from the early days?
Mate, I think the biggest lesson you can do is just go out and see as much stuff as you can, right? A lot of stuff nowadays is obviously you can do it on the computer. You don't need to be in the field as much, but the reality of it is like seeing things in real life. And I think underground, particularly, although I was always more inclined on the exploration side, spending time in either an active working environment, like whether it's open pit or underground, you actually see what an ore body looks like. You actually understand the scale of the thing that you're targeting.
Yep.
And it really is a needle in a haystack sometimes, right? So it changes your thinking about, well, if we're drilling this hole and we're targeting something that could only be 5 meters wide, you need to get as much information as possible to effectively target that hole.
Yeah, okay.
I think just getting out there, and if you want to be in exploration, I definitely recommend doing some time in open pits or underground and getting a real feel for what you're looking for and what it takes to make an economic ore body, rather than just
Also the fact that some people do not like underground.
Yeah, I loved it, but
Yep.
some people it can make people a little bit nervous, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I was learn underground as well, was look up.
Yep.
So whenever I go to a rock face, or I'm always looking up and see if something's going to fall on my head.
Yep.
But yeah, it's dangerous for sure. But I loved it. It was I guess I'm a bit more of a risk taker than some, but the underground environment and working with the people are all good fun, and it's pretty wild, but that's what I enjoy, I guess.
Yeah, beautiful. Mate, let's go into eco-resources,
Yep.
right? So you were part of the geology team, geology management team that took it from, I think, 390,000 ounces to 1.8 million ounces or thereabouts.
Give or take. Yeah, it was interesting. So basically, as I was finalising my PhD and just writing up the thesis, Evolution Mining bought out Phoenix Gold's Castle Hill project. So I was made redundant basically, and then finished off my thesis, and then ended up working with Ciro for a little while just as a stopgap. And then I was looking for a job, and Eco Resources sort of popped up. And there's a bit of a story there in that Eco Resources was under management of an individual. The major shareholders didn't really like that individual, so they 249D'd him. Yep. So
249D. What is this?
So the 249D is basically when they want to oust a member of the board, right? So the major shareholders were upset with the way the company was going. Just so happened the major shareholders owned a large package of ground and the Bronzewing processing plant adjacent to Eco Resources ground. So the shareholders basically got together and voted him off the board, and then
He didn't want to leave?
He didn't want to leave, mate, no. And when he did leave, it was scorched earth policy. He stole a Land Cruiser, allegedly.
Yeah. Okay.
He deleted all the stuff off the
Wow.
computers. It took a lot of information. He had a bit of a tantrum, which is probably fair enough, I suppose.
No, in some ways not really mature enough.
Yeah,
And probably
exactly.
shouldn't have had that position that he was in.
Probably not, and I think that's why they got rid of him, right? So he just justified the decision in the end.
So what is that? You file a
249D.
249D.
Yep.
Because as I was saying, like the only documents that I've really looked at is a Form 11A.
Yep.
It was during my divorce.
Familiar with that one as well. Fortunately, not that familiar with the 249D.
Yeah, no, neither am I, thank God.
So anyway, this guy got ousted. A guy by the name of Mick Ruane was really the brains behind bringing Echo and a company called Metallico Resources together. So they did a friendly merger of equals.
Beautiful.
So then Echo Resources ended up with this massive package in the Yandal Belt, which had a Julius deposit, which was a good open pit oxide deposit, had the Bronzewing processing facility and a number of satellite deposits around it. So myself, Simon Coxell, I was the exploration manager. Simon Coxell was the CEO at the time, and Paul Savage was the CFO at the time. And so we were the initial starting group of the new Echo Resources that got rebranded and gave it a bit of a rip for 3 or 4 years, basically, and did a lot of exploration, did a lot of drilling. We went through bankable feasibility studies and all the rest of it to bring the resources up into a mineable level. And then basically after all that, Northern Star, who holds the Jundee ground just north of where we were, Northern Star came in and gobbled Echo up. So it was
Beautiful. That's what you want.
Yeah, good result, really.
Yeah, great result for the shareholders.
Good result for the shareholders.
They weren't going to get a great result with bloody old mate.
No, they weren't. They weren't going to get a great result with the previous management. That's for sure. He didn't have the vision that Mick did, which was to bring it all together, turn it into one large asset with the Bronzewing processing facility, and that was the story, and we could sell that story from a commercial point of view, obviously, and then we could raise the money to then go and do the work we needed to do, which is just drill, baby.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's it.
That's the one. Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
Mate, let's go into your exploration mindset.
Yep. So obviously, I think the PhD obviously was a big part of that, learning what it takes to form a mineral deposit. My background being from the country, Dad was a farmer and, spent a lot of time in the bush is really sort of beneficial to wanting to go out there and look at different parts of Australia or the world, wherever it may be. And then another thing that happened after Echo is so Agrimin Potash has the Lake Mackay Potash project out the WA border, and that was run by Mark Savage at the time, which was Paul Savage's brother, the CFO at Echo, and they were looking at exploring around the Lake Mackay Potash project for IOCG deposits. So after Echo, I went across there and we started Tarly Resources as a proprietary limited, like a private co. There was 15, initial investors in that company, and we went and locked up the whole area as far as the tenure is concerned, and then we went out and explored it. And as far as remote exploration, there's nowhere more remote in WA, right? You sort of find Alice Springs and drive in 10 hours back into WA or into Port Hedland and 12 hours out to the WA border. So it was really remote, green fields, like rough exploration, completely different from the near mine and brownfield stuff you see in the Eastern Goldfields. And it was just, fascinating stuff. The Aboriginal people out there were the last known 9 Aboriginal people to walk out of the desert, the Pintupi 9 they're called.
Wow.
I drove to some places which I don't think a car's ever driven to. It took me sort of 2 days to travel 40 k's, bush bashing through spinifex and sand dune country, and that just sort of, I already had a love for exploration, but that just took it to the new level of like going to remote places, learning to be completely self-sufficient. I mean, we did have the helicopter there as backup from the potash project, but you don't want to call that unless you absolutely have to, right?
No. Yep.
So, so I always just loved getting out there and really exploring and having a look around and then gathering the data and then coming back and then applying it to what you know from a grassroots perspective, I suppose.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want in from management is someone who's been out there from the ground up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough. I've had the opportunities to do it, but again, you got to say yes and you got to go do it, right?
That's exactly right.
And yeah, that's where I do my best work. I think where your mind's at peace, right? All you're focusing on is how you're going to survive and how you're going to get to the area you want to sample or map, right? So
Yeah.
it's
And get those results out.
get those results out and
Collect the data.
mate, data's power in this game, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of good publicly available stuff. So you always start with your geophysics, your gravity and your magnetics and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to go out there and take a rock chip sample or a soil sample or hopefully eventually get to drill it.
Yeah, beautiful. Mate, so let's get into your transition to leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so from out there exploring for potash to where you are now.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I've sort of had a little bit of exposure to leadership when I was being exploration manager at Echo, right? We had a small team with some young geologists and some fieldies and all the rest of it, and obviously dealing with contractors, whether it be drilling contractors or whoever else. So that was a sort of toe in the water, and then did the more grassrootsy stuff after that. But then I was very cognizant of the fact that I was interested in the business side of the game, I suppose. With my background, I didn't want to get pigeonholed as a highly technical, just a techie geo type thing.
Yep.
So I wanted to test myself in the more corporate side and ended up with a boutique broking firm out of Subiaco, doing the IPO game basically. So we listed a couple of companies. They had a couple of shells there already that they were looking to put projects into. I ended up sort of managing, say, 4 companies basically, or managing the geology side of things, and then I was the MD of one of the IPOs we did, and a non-exec of another one. So it was a very valuable experience.
And what did you learn? What did you learn in both of those roles?
Learned so much about the markets, right, and the corporate side of things, and going and dealing with the ASX and all the things that you have to deal with outside of
like notifiable
right?
information.
Yeah, right. And like, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and all I'd previously been focused on is getting a drill rig and getting the work done, right? But to get to that point, there's so much that has to happen from a company perspective. You've got all your reporting requirements that you have to do. You have to make sure that you're announcing everything that needs to be announced and you're compliant in all sorts of ways.
Staying on top of environmental issues.
Native title, and heritage has become something that's really big nowadays, bigger than it was when I first started for sure.
Yep.
The money side of things, right? Money doesn't fall from trees, so
yeah, it falls from investors.
That's right, and you need to keep the investors interested enough to want to invest in your company, right? And then if you tell them that you're going to do something, then you got to go do it. So, it was a real learning experience about everything that sort of wasn't related directly to the actual day-to-day exploration of running companies.
Beautiful. So let's get into Augustus Minerals.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we at today? But how did you get there?
Yep. Again, so I'll start. So I spent about 3 or 4 years, right, with these companies. Omnia Metals was one we listed, and Marquee Resources was another company, Pure Resources. But Omnia got caught up in the lithium bust, basically, right? We IPO'd as a future-facing metals company. We had some lithium assets in Canada, and then we tried to do a friendly merger with a group out of Canada. Unfortunately, during the process, the lithium market went bust. Omnia got tied up in. We went into voluntary suspension, and then when the deal fell over, ASX kept us in involuntary suspension for another 12 months, basically, right? So. I had to work through that process and get the company relisted, and then I was pretty exhausted by it all, so it was time for a new challenge. And Augustus was out there and spoke to the guys, and particularly their Music Well project piqued my interest to start with,
Yep.
because the they're sort of breaking the paradigm of what we're exploring for, or where gold deposits form in
Yep.
WA, which has all previously been heavily focused on the greenstone. And this comes back to the PhD days, right?
Yep.
Back in the day, the granites weren't considered a fluid source for gold. However, we know now over the last 20 odd years that, well, granites definitely bring gold-bearing fluids into the depositional environment in the near surface. And so what we're doing at Augustus is having a more strict focus on the granites, as opposed to just looking in the greenstones.
Yep.
And there's plenty of gold there, right? Like, we're finding good gold numbers in rock chip and soil samples. We're finding big gold nuggets out there. And these are all hosted in granites, where people there's never been any drill holes there. People have always sort of fobbed them off as it's as we call it, benchtop country, which is barren granite. But what we do know, and what I know from my research, is there's many different types of granites, and if you know what you're looking for and how to target them, then there's a huge exploration opportunity within the granites, I think.
So where is Music Well located?
Just north of Leonora, sort of northeast of Leonora.
And you've also got something in the Gascoyne?
Yep, that was the Tea Tree project.
That's right, the Tea Tree project.
Which they IPO'd off 23, I think they IPO'd, late 22, early 23, which is sort of, I mean, the Gascoyne region's, it's got everything up there, right? Yet no one's really found that big one yet. There'll be something up there for sure, but there's sniffs of gold, rare earths, uranium, base metals,
Copper.
Copper, lithium. So there's lots of smoke up there, but very difficult terrain. And also, you need big exploration budgets. And if you find something, it needs to be big enough to warrant the investment of infrastructure and processing facilities, I suppose. So,
What would be one of the nearest bloody processing plants up there?
probably Paulson's.
Paulson's, yep. Paulson's is owned by Black Cat Mining, right?
Used to be ex-Northern Star.
Yep. And what about Mika Metals?
Yeah, a bit further south, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, still same. Well,
yeah,
still truckable.
Well, a long way from where our projects are. Our sort of projects are a bit further to the west than that. So,
yeah, okay.
But so anyway, the Tea Tree project is still promising, but we're just sort of reevaluating what we do up there, right? Spent a fair bit of money, and now we have Music Well and the Papua New Guinean stuff that we'll talk about in due course. There's your lead in.
Yep, beautiful. That's what I've got.
Yep.
Let's go into the PNG connection.
Yeah. So we've pivoted away a little bit from Tea Tree. We'll try and extract some value out of that, and then focus on our gold assets in WA and Papua.
Yeah, awesome. Let's go into PNG.
Okay, yeah. So it's a really interesting story, actually, and so it's something that I thought I've always wanted to go to PNG for one. I mean, the geology there is fascinating, and the type of deposits you're looking for just dwarf the ones we have in WA, right?
Oh, really?
Like Porgera, which is 15 k's away from our Mount Kare applications, 32 million ounces of gold.
Wow,
it's staggering. In WA, you're looking for 500,000 or 1 million ounces, and it could take you 10 years, 20 years to develop something like that up, right? Whereas in Papua New Guinea, we have an application down on Mount Kare, which has already got 2.5 million ounces of gold defined. It was explored by a company called Indochine Mining. They bought the project in 2011 for about 27 million bucks in cash and scrip. And then over the next 3 years, they raised over 100 million bucks.
Wow.
Invested about 80 million of that, 80 million of that in ground. There was some previous work already done by historical owners. So there was, over 100 million bucks Australian has been spent at Mount Kare, you'd say. But Indochine went pretty hard, and they went on a hell of a run. Share price was going through the roof. They were the talk of the town. But unfortunately, there was, completely out of Indochine's control. The license application was pulled out from underneath them, and
by the PNG government.
Yeah, there was a bit of dodgy stuff going on there. Put it this way, I think the first person to put an application down was the son of the Minister for Mines or something, or the MRO. But anyway, that's allegedly.
Allegedly.
that's neither here nor there. But yeah, basically, so Brian, who was a major shareholder at Indochina at the time, sorry. He had also been awarded the underground mining contract to mine Mount Kare. When the application was pulled out from underneath Indochina, he subsequently went in and applied for it. This was 12 years ago, right? And nothing's really happened until, say, the last 12 months, where the government's changed. People are more they want to catch up with the rest of the Western world in Papua New Guinea a bit, and you can see that the local government and the policies are changing. People are more inclined to get these things up and running.
Yep.
So what we're seeing now is the court system is starting to progress through these applications. There's a lot more talk about Mount Kare getting granted to someone. We've got what they call the second in time application, which is basically, they go through one by one. So we were third, but they've got rid of the first one. We think we're the best application in the queue, basically. We've got Brian and the relationships there with the government and the local people. We're the only stock exchange listed company with an application, so we have access to capital. We got the skill sets to go and do it. So we're hopeful that...
When will you find out about that?
We're thinking within we say the next 6 months, right? But we're hoping early next year.
What sort of pressure can you... Well, not pressure, but what things can you do to try and speed up that process? Is there anything you can do?
It's not so much about speeding it up, because the court systems will do because it has to go through the Supreme Court and stuff, right?
Yep.
So you can't really speed the process up, but you can be over there. And Brian was over there for the last 2 weeks, just talking to people, the MRA is the Mineral Resource Authority, which is the equivalent of the Mines Department over here, right? So speak to the people at the MRA, speak to the local government officials and the federal government officials, go out onto the ground and speak to all the people, and just sort of, try and encourage the process. Try and just make sure you're front and center, make sure they know what you're up to.
Be a little bit transparent.
Be transparent, build that trust, right? And Brian's been doing that for 12 years. So we've got an in-country manager that sort of keeps on to the day-to-day over there when there's plenty going on. So look, I think we're as good a chance as any in that queue to get that. And if I'm being biased, our application is definitely the best.
Yeah.
So
do you get to see the other applications, or?
Yeah, they're all publicly available.
Okay, cool.
And we know who else have got applications in, but none of them are ASX listed, which is the big kicker, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll have to raise private capital, which is doable, but it's nowhere near as easy as in a listed co. So
yeah. Mate, let's get into the future of exploration. Like AI, hot topic. Technology is always changing, as we spoke about earlier. Even you doing your PhD, you do a thesis, and you're a published author now.
That's
right. That's right. So all the things that you learnt, while the fundamental principles probably remain the same, technology's just come forward at a great rate of knots. So how do you think that technology for exploration is going to change? It'll certainly change for Augustus Minerals in the future.
Yeah, from the fundamental level, right, when we were doing the PhD, got to stop talking about it.
Don't, mate. Don't. Be proud of it.
But we were using scanning electron microscopes and things like that. And, even when I was studying, we were doing things under microscopy. But the technology nowadays, right, they can run a scanner over it and they tell you what minerals are in it, and they can do 3D scans and show you exactly where things sit. So from the fundamental point of view, it's just exploded out of sight, right? Like just the day-to-day, what's in this rock, how quickly can you turn it around? So it'll have huge implications for assaying techniques and crunching data, I suppose.
Do you think it'll really speed things up? What would have taken, I don't know, what would have taken someone in the lab, let's say, a couple of weeks to a month to get back to you?
It should do, yeah.
What are we talking about now?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you can get a pretty good indication with some of this stuff, like in a day or two, right?
Amazing.
Even portable XRF technologies, increased out of sight. I mean, um, what we have to do for an ASX point of view, that's probably needs to catch up to the technology a bit, right?
Yep.
Because some new analytical techniques are coming out that you still can't report on, whereas internal.
Why is that?
The labs there needs to be they need to be certified. And there needs to be a bit more work on them to sort of get them across the ASX's um, JORC compliant requirements, right?
Okay.
And that'll probably happen in various iterations of the JORC code. Um, but again, we talk about AI and stuff. Well, that's all great, but data is power again. So if you don't have the data to put into the AI, then it's hard for it to spit out a tangible result. But you can certainly do amazing stuff with geophysics, for example, and just processing geophysical images and say, oh well, tell us where all the faults are, and it'll give you a good indication of where the boundaries are and the cracks are, and there's so much you can do. And they've been. Instead of days gone by, they had a supercomputer at CSIRO like churning through huge amounts of data, and it'd take a week to turn around. Right, the processing power is so much higher. You can do some of this stuff on a laptop almost. So,
Yeah.
it will speed things up. There will still need to be that human element, I believe. You got to interpret the results, but life should become easier and faster for a geologist going forward. I mean, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, beautiful. Mate, let's get into market cycles. Obviously, in your role.
Been through a couple.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. What are you doing about navigating and trying to be prepared for, market cycles?
It's really difficult, right? And I think that's why, I mean, a lot of the world's gone back to gold because we're in a cycle that no one's ever seen before. You know, we got caught up in the lithium bust so recently.
You reckon lithium will come back?
Not to the levels it was, no. I think like they'll do with rare earths, they'll have like a base price or a bit like iron ore, things like that. There'll be people will agree on a price and that'll be it. But we're so heavily reliant at the moment on what China does, and until that changes, there's sort of anything could happen. But predicting market cycles is difficult. I think I try and predict a project, right? If it's whether it's gold, copper, nickel, lithium, a good project's a good project, and then you just have to wait for the right time. So. But people were saying years ago nickel was going to keep on going up, and platinum group elements and all the rest of it. And then China turned on the nickel mines in Indonesia, and the nickel price hasn't recovered, right? And the nickel market hasn't recovered. And people are going to saying, lithium's, it's going amazing, going to be great guns, and then China bought on a whole pile of lithium supply. So how do you predict that? I'm not sure.
No.
You just basically have to. Like at the moment, if I was looking for something, I'd be looking at gold, copper, and maybe some of the specific rare earths because everything else is so volatile.
Any particular rare earths that you'd think to look at?
I mean, antimony seems to be having a moment in the sun, but rare earths are so difficult, right? You're just looking at the project that has the right metallurgy and the right economics to get going, but.
The government seems quite keen to be looking at rare earths.
Yeah,
at the moment.
and it's just processing technology, right? So it's not a function of exploration. We know there's heaps of them out there. It's a matter of being able to extract them from the minerals that they're bound up in.
Yeah.
And there's a massive environmental implication of doing that as well, which is why China has got a monopoly on processing rare earths because they're not so phased about the environmental damage, but. I'm sticking in the gold and copper space at the moment because
Smart decision.
everything else I just can't get a grasp on at the moment. So it's it's pretty safe, I suppose.
Yeah, mate. This is my last one.
Go on.
Recently we've been finishing with a best advice that you've heard or received.
Yeah, I thought about this one, and one just kept on popping into my head, and it's something Dad used to tell me all the time was the KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yep. Yeah.
And, I think that's you can overcomplicate things sometimes, right? And the ability to strip things back to their bare fundamentals, whether it be in an exploration environment or a management environment, is something that I try and do. So your mind can get so cluttered and there's so many things going on, but if you go, okay, what's the problem? How are we going to solve it? And then go and do it is sort of how I look at that. What Dad says is how I interpret it, I suppose.
Yeah, look, that's exactly right. I like that one as well.
Yeah.
You know, so many people out there in all roles, you know, whether they're on the ground or up in the boardroom,
That's right.
they should be thinking about that. Keep it simple,
Keep it
stupid.
simple. Yep. Because if you step outside those boxes, you never know what's going to happen.
That's
right?
exactly right. Yeah. It just overcomplicate things. It's ridiculous.
Right. That's right. I mean, and we live in a complex world, and there's so much going on. But there's always a problem, a solution, and a way to go about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, mate, James, thanks very much for coming in and joining me. I've learned a lot.
Thanks for having me.
That's the whole point of this. Thanks very much for tuning into another episode on the Gold Room Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this one for the Trifecta series. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment.